Recently, I wrote a poem entitled All Lives Matter. And I didn't write it because of a movement which developed after I thought of the phrase. I wrote it because I mean it and I know it's correct. I also know that people from oppressed populations, people who have ancestors who were slaves, and people who have suffered oppression today, use that expression, Black Lives Matter, because they're trying to make a point. But I don't think a point needs to be the name of a movement. And the reason is it includes the word black. No matter how much some of you might want to call me white, I resent it. Just as a person from one or another population might resent being called the N-word or being called black. See, there are many reasons for this, and it's a very complex issue, but a very simple truth. I am not white. And your calling me white diminishes me. And it puts me in a group for your convenience. Even if your convenience is to support a righteous movement, which is to liberate people. I have a sentiment, which sometimes is betrayed when I get angry at the behavior of different groups, and I have a policy, which is to love all people. I don't have an ethnocentric or an ethnophobic bone in my body. I don't call myself a Buddhist as much as I used to, but insofar as I believe in the idea that we can all become enlightened beings, I am still a Buddhist. Insofar as I believe that meditation is the best way to find the truth in you and the lies in you, and to find peace in you, and probably also to find great artistic and scientific insight, I am a Buddhist. And I don't know about all Buddhists, but this Buddhist, and this Athenian, because I believe in the Stoics of ancient Greece, and Marcus Aurelius of Rome, doesn't see color. A few years ago, when I had arrived back in the United States, and I had been a victim of ethnophobia, xenophobia, and things like that in South Korea, I used to go out with my good friend Tony Watkins, and sometimes when I conveyed a story to him, funny or otherwise, I would say black people or Spanish people or this or that. And Tony actually said to me, "Why do you have to label people?" And I said, "Tony, I'm only doing it to add color to the story. It's like when you go to a blues show, you like that bass player is black and that he talks a certain way. You like that, right?" And I meant this with an affection for different cultures. But Tony started my thinking, and I saw the Genome Project on Nat Geo, and I learned that we're actually not different races. And I immediately decided, because that's the kind of person that I am, I don't have to wait for someone else who is cited on Wikipedia or in an old encyclopedia to make changes in the world. I believe I am right to make a change in the world, and it begins with me. So I stopped using the word race. I'm not going to go into the science about that. You can look up my other essays and videos on my website or here on Facebook, or you can look on Instagram, or you can look on YouTube, okay? But the fact is that we're not different races. It's a scientific fact. I have to be careful here because I want to dive right into that, but I'm trying to make another point. If it's true that we're not different races, we should stop using the word. All of the prejudice, the slavery, and the oppression came from the false idea that we are different races. And the only way to reverse it is to stop using these terms and thinking in this way. So people who are out there fighting with Black Lives Matter, I'm with you, but I don't use the same language as you. I've been a poet since I'm 11 or 10 years old. I believe in words and accuracy. If I had the patience, and I may still acquire it, I would become a scientist. I don't believe in having my words separate from reality. It has a lot to do with all the ways in which I think. It has a lot to do with why I left the church. It has a lot to do with why, even as a lifelong lover of NASA, in my 20s I wouldn't wear an American flag. I wrote diatribes about the United States. I was angry about some of our wars, about the dropping of atomic weapons on Japan, about using chemical weapons in Vietnam, and yes, about slavery and all the other wrong things we did. But I wear a flag today because I'm a nuanced individual, and I know that the flag doesn't mean something ethnophobic or xenophobic. Not to me, anyway. When I first arrived as a teacher in South Korea and I was called American, I was shocked. Of course I'm American, but I didn't think of myself as American because at that time I was just like some of these narrow-minded people who were mad at me for saying all lives matter. I didn't want to be associated with the American flag. I loved my uncles and my father and all Americans for having worked and paid taxes and even gone to war or served in the military to protect our country, but I knew that a lot of that was a lie. And so I didn't like being labeled. I didn't like being labeled American. Now I don't mind because my pride for America goes beyond our errors. I was young and immature. But I am sensitive if people level the charge of American the way they level the charge of white. And I went to art school. This is not white. This is a yellowish white. You don't call me hazel-eyed. You don't call me short. You don't call me bald. That would be rude. Then why do you call me white? And similarly, I won't call other people black. I won't get in your quote-unquote race-baiting corner, which actually is a violation right there of my principles, to use that stupid, ignorant, divisive, incorrect word. It's not actually a race-baiting corner. It's an ethnicity-baiting corner. But race-baiting still sounds more powerful. And people tell me, because these words are powerful, we still have to use them. No, we don't. I blame people of some populations for using the N-word. They say it's their word. They have adopted the words of their former masters who oppressed their ancestors. And some still oppress them today. It's a stupid word. It's a self-hatred word. And yes, I understand. I've heard the arguments about how using that word, they think, has neutered it and taken the power out of it that the xenophobe uses. But I don't agree. They have abided by the xenophobes' vocabulary and ignorance. You can't force me to agree that I'm white. I think it's a bigoted point of view. And I would never call you black. That's a bigoted point of view. I know for a fact that we are all human. It's not a sentiment. It's not a kumbaya platitude. It's a scientific law. We are from the same genus and species and subspecies, and there haven't been two different races on Earth among humans since Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal. Yes, we possess lineage differences because people insist on mating in the same groups, which I think is incestuous. The secret to the building of the human genome and the mastering of a better species of human is for people to mix. And the solving of this problem is for people to love one another and stop dividing themselves into groups based on color. Because if you're going to do that, we should also call people something according to the kind of hair they have or the kind of molar they have. Call people from Asia the epicanthals because they have an epicanthal fold and I don't. Just as ridiculous as that is, it's ridiculous to call people black and white. And if in case you haven't noticed, the people from Africa, for example, are all different shades of these dark pigments. And the people in America who call themselves black are not black, they're brown. So it's a bunch of stupidity, and I refuse to be part of it because it's the cause of the problem.